Hello students, welcome to English literature class. We are in the trial scene part 2. This is part 2 of the trial scene. In the previous video part 1, we had completed from line 1 to 70. Hope you have seen the video children and made notes too. Today we shall continue from page number 114. Let me just briefly summarize what we did in the previous video children. In the first page we saw how the Duke tries to console Antonio. He is a little biased, and how Antonio has come to defend himself against a stony adversary, and Antonio thanks the Duke for taking so much trouble to try to change the mind of Shylock, but he remained adamant, and how he was mentally and physically prepared to face Shylock with his patience and to face everything with calmness and fortitude, his tyranny and his rage. And then the Duke tries to change the mind of Shylock by trying to appeal to him to show mercy, that he expects a gentle answer from him. But Shylock tells that he cannot change his mind because he has sworn on the holy Sabbath that he will have the forfeit and the bond. And he cautions the Duke, telling that if the Duke denies him justice, let danger fall upon the charter, that is the document by which Venice was given independence. And then he tells that he cannot answer why he wants a rotten flesh, but he can only tell that he bears a deep-rooted hatred and loathing towards Antonio that makes him that influences him so greatly that he even prefers to prosecute this case against him, although he loses money. He's prepared to lose money. So he's proceeding with the case, though he will lose money. At that time, an argument ensues between Bassanio and Shylock, and Shylock tells that he will not, whether Bassanio would allow a serpent to sting him twice. It means that he has got an opportunity now to take revenge against Antonio. So he doesn't want to forgive him. He doesn't want to give another chance to Antonio. Let us find out what happens next. I'm in page number 114, children, line number 71. So how does Antonio, who is watching all the proceedings, how does he react? Let us find out. When Shylock and Bassanio are arguing, let us see how he reacts. I pray you, think you question with the Jew? You may as well go stand upon the beach and bid the main flood bait his usual height. You may as well use question with the wolf, why he hath made the ewe bleat for the lamb. You may as well forbid the mountain pines to wag their high tops to make no noise when they are threatened with the gusts of heaven. You may as well do anything most hard as seek to soften that, than which what's harder, his Jewish heart. Therefore, I beseech you, make no more offers. Use no further means, but with all brief and plain conveniency, let me have judgment, and the Jew his will. So what does this show of Antonio? He has given up. He knows that nobody can save him because the bond is in every way legal, except Shylock. Nobody can save him, and he knows that nobody can change Shylock's mind. So he tells, advises Bassanio, what is he doing? It's a waste of time. I pray you think you can question the Jew. He should remember that he is answering, that he is arguing with the Jew. He should remember he is arguing with the Jew. The Jew here again, it refers to Shylock. They don't even use his name. Everyone knows that the Jew means Shylock. He should remember that he is arguing with the Jew. It's a waste. Nobody can win over him in this kind of argument. You may as well go stand upon the beach and bid the main flood bait his usual height. He tells him, if he's going to soften his heart, he might as well stand on the seashore and ask the tide not to rise so high as usual. So one can go stand there, ask the tide to reduce its height. The tide might listen to Bassanio, but Shylock will not change his mind. It's useless. Then he goes on to tell, or you can understand this way, just as the tide won't listen to you, in the same way Shylock won't listen to you. You may as well question the wolf why he hath made the ewe bleat for the lamb. Yes. Secondly, he tells that he may as well ask the wolf why he made the mother sheep to mourn for the lamb he devoured. The wolf might answer, but Shylock will not change his mind. Or just like the wolf will not listen, will not answer why it ate the lamb and made the mother sheep you to mourn. So in the same way, Shylock will not change his mind. He will not listen to anybody. You may as well forbid the mountain pines to wag their high tops and to make no noise when they are threatened with the gusts of heaven. So what is the threatened children? Go to pine trees. Pine means pine trees. Wag, wave, threaten, blown. Gusts of heaven, winds from above. What can one do? That he may as well expect he can ask the pine trees on the hillside not to wave their high tops and not to make a noise when the gusts of wind from heaven, from above blows. The pine trees might listen. They might stop wagging their high tops, but Shylock will not listen. Or you can understand in this way: if you order the pine trees to stop wagging, stop waving when the winds from above, when the gusts from heaven blow, they will not listen to you. In the same way, Shylock will not listen. So you may as well do anything most hard as seek to soften that, than which what's harder, his Jewish heart. Antonio tells Bassanio that he may attempt the hardest thing in the world rather than attempting a thing still harder, that is to soften the heart of Shylock. So what is Antonio trying to do here? He is giving 3 examples to prove that Bassanio's pleas are ineffective. It's a waste of time. Just one may question the tide, one might ask the wolf, one might ask the pine to stop doing those things, but they will not listen to you. In the same way, Shylock will not listen. Or you can answer this in this way also. The tide might listen to you. The wolf might answer. The pine trees might stop listening. But you cannot soften Shylock. So one might attempt the hardest thing in the world rather than attempting a thing still harder, that is to soften the heart of Shylock. So it's a waste of time. Don't argue with him. These are the examples given by Antonio. Children, this has come in the board exam, so please mark it. So I do beseech you, he requests, make no offers, don't make any more appeals on my behalf, use no further means, don't take any other further steps, but with all brief and plain conveniency. What does he do? But with all due respect, speed and simplicity, as it is convenient to you, let me have judgment and the Jew his will. So he turns to the Duke, Antonio turns to the Duke and tells him to make no offers and no more appeals. Without wasting further words or time, he should let Antonio have the sentence given against him and allow Shylock to have his wish. That's how he appeals to the Duke now to give the sentence. It's a waste of time arguing with Shylock. Let us find out what happens. So Bassanio, he tries, makes one more attempt. For thy 3,000 ducats, here is this. He wants to bribe him. He knows that Shylock is very greedy. He knows that he might take double the amount. So he tries to change his mind. See, for your 3,000, I'm ready to give you 6,000 ducats. The principal amount was 3,000 ducats. Now he offers, he doubles it and he's ready to give 6,000. But Shylock, how does Shylock respond? If every ducat in 6,000 ducats were in 6 parts and every part a ducat, I will not draw them. I would have my bond. So now first time we realize, okay, that Shylock, we know that he's greedy, but now through this dialogue, we come to know for him what is more important, taking revenge against Antonio, who has ridiculed him, ill-treated him, abused him, humiliated him, embarrassed him, and also made fun of his religion. So now he doesn't want to give up that chance. He wants to take revenge on Shylock. So how does he respond? If each of the 6,000 ducats were divided into 6 and each part was a ducat, yet he would not accept them. I would have my bond. He just wants the terms of the bond to be met. What are the terms? He will get a pound of flesh if Antonio fails to repay 3,000 ducats in 3 months. So even if you were offered 36,000 ducats also, he is not willing to take that money. So he wants revenge. That is more important. Taking revenge against Antonio is more important than his money. Now the Duke asks, how shall thou hope for mercy, rendering none? How can you hope for God's mercy if you show no mercy to others? So the Duke is surprised. So Shylock, what judgment shall I dread doing no wrong? So he questions, why should he fear? He need not fear any punishment because he has done no wrong. So why should he be afraid of any punishment, any judgment having done no wrong? So then he tells, you have among many a purchased slave, which like your asses and your dogs and mules, you use in abject and in slavish parts, because you bought them. Shall I say to you, let them be free, marry them to your heirs? Why sweat them under burdens? Let their beds be made as soft as yours, and let their palates be seasoned with such wines. You will answer, the slaves are ours. So do I answer you. The pound of flesh which I demand of him is dearly bought. It's mine, and I will have it. If you deny me, fie upon your law. There is no force in the decrees of Venice. I stand for judgment. Answer, shall I have it? So now what is Shylock trying to tell here? That why are they ridiculing him, mocking him? Because the Christians are known for showing mercy. But now he tells, the Christians are no better. How does he prove that? You have many among a purchased slave. During that time, slavery thrived, children. So many rich people had slaves, so whom they purchased, paying high price for able-bodied people so that they could work in their land or whatever. So he is telling the Christians here, you have among you many a purchased, many of you have purchased slaves, which you, like your asses and your dogs and mules, you use in abject and in slavish parts. So these Christians who have purchased slaves, how do they treat them? They treat no better than animals. They are treated like their donkeys and dogs and mules. Asses mean donkey, and mules, children, offsprings of a male donkey and female horse. So how are these, just as these animals are used for menial tasks, servile tasks, these slaves are also used, which like your asses and your dogs and mules, you use in abject, in mean, degrading jobs, and in slavish parts, in servile tasks, low, menial jobs. Why? Because you bought them. What is the reason you give? Why? Even if anybody questions you, why you treat them so badly, you tell them that you have bought the slaves. You justify your treatment. because they are yours by right, by the right of purchase. That is how you answer. Shall I say to you, let them be free? If I tell you, free those slaves, will you agree to free them? If I tell you, marry them to your heirs, heirs means offspring's children, offspring's children, offspring. So if I tell you to get your children married to the slaves, will you agree to me? Why sweat they under burdens? Why should they perspire? Why should they work so hard under the sun? Why should they perspire under heavy loads? You let them marry instead. Let them marry. If I ask you to let them marry your children, will you agree? Let their beds be made as soft as yours. Give them the same beds that you use, soft beds. Will you give them? And let their palates be seasoned with such viands. And let their palates means appetites be seasoned with such viands, be treated with the same food as your own. If I tell you that the slaves should also be treated with the same food as your own, good food that you eat, let them also be given the same food, rich food to eat. Let them be given the soft beds to sleep. If I tell you to marry your children to their slaves, will you agree to me? No. What will you answer? You will answer. How will you tell? The slaves are ours. You tell the slaves belong to you. You have purchased them. So do I answer you. So because they have purchased, you tell because you have purchased, you can do as it pleases you. You treat them as their property, having given payment for them. Now I'll answer you because you won't listen to me. Because children, property can be disposed of. You can treat it as you wish. So the Christians treated the slaves as their property. They could do as they wish. So now Shylock tells, so do I answer you. Now you want to know what I want to do with my pound of flesh. Why I want that pound of flesh? The pound of flesh which I demand of him is dearly bought. Yes, the pound of flesh which I demand from his body is dearly bought. I have paid a huge amount, a high price for that pound of flesh, 3,000 ducats. That flesh is rotten. It's of no use, but still I have paid 3,000 ducats for it. So it belongs to me and I will have it because I've paid such a high price. So the word dearly means high price, children. Is dearly bought. It is mine. Yes, that pound of flesh belongs to me and I can do what I want with it and I will have it. If you deny me, now he tells the Duke, if the Duke denies him, justice, fie upon your law, shame on your laws. There is no, then he goes on to, there is no force in the decrees of Venice. I stand for judgment. Answer, shall I have it? Then he goes, if the Duke refuses him, then the Duke will be making an open confession that the law of Venice is a mere dead letter, that there is no power in the decrees, laws of Venice. I stand for judgment. So he demands justice. I want justice. Shall I have it? He asked the Duke whether the Duke intends to give him justice or not. Now the Duke realizes that there is no other way to help Antonio. Upon my power, I may dismiss this court unless Bellario, a learned doctor whom I have sent for to determine this, come here today. After hearing this, now the Duke knows that his hands are tied, using his power now. Okay, he wants to adjourn the court. Dismiss, adjourn. Upon my power. So the Duke says that he can adjourn the court on the strength of his authority, unless Bellario, a learned doctor whom I have sent for to determine this, come here today. However, he was waiting because he had sent word to Dr. Bellario, a learned doctor. Learned doctor means not MBBS doctor, children, a doctor of law. So he had sent word to Bellario, a learned doctor of law, whom he had called to decide the case. Come here today. So he was waiting to see whether the Dr. Bellario would come. maybe he had told him that he would arrive that day. So that's why he doesn't want to, using his power, authority, he wants to adjourn the court, but he's waiting to see if Dr. Bellario will arrive to the court. Salario at that point, my lord, here stays without a messenger with letters from the doctor, new come from Padua. So at that point, Salario tells the Duke, my lord, here stays without, somebody is waiting outside. A person is waiting. Who is that person? A messenger. A messenger is waiting outside. With what? With letters from the doctor. Which doctor? Dr. Bellario, doctor of law. New come from Padua, who has just now come from Padua. So just as the Duke was wishing for Dr. Bellario to come, Salario gives the news that a messenger has come from the Dr. Bellario, who has just now come from Padua. So the Duke tells, bring us the letters and call the messenger. So the Duke is happy. Bring us, what letter is that? Let me see those letters and call the messenger. Bassanio, at that point, what does he notice, children? He notices that Antonio is very dejected. He's resigned to his fate. He's very despondent. He's very listless. Good cheer, Antonio. What, man? Courage yet. The Jews shall have my flesh, blood, bones and all, ere thou shalt lose for me one drop of blood. Seeing the way how Antonio is very dejected, so he tells Antonio to be cheerful. What, man? Courage it, huh? Courage, don't lose hope so quickly. And he assures him. What does he assure? The Jew shall have my flesh, blood, bones and all, else thou shalt lose for me one drop of blood. He tells that he's ready to give up his flesh, blood, bones, his body, everything, before Antonio will be allowed to lose one drop of blood because of Bassanio. So what does this show of Bassanio, children? How much he loves Antonio. Antonio is also ready to do anything for Bassanio, and Bassanio is also ready to do, he's ready to give up his body. He's ready to give up, please underline, flesh, blood, bones. What is he ready to give up? He's ready to give up his flesh, blood, bones, his body, before Antonio is allowed, before Antonio loses even one drop of blood because of Bassanio. At that point, Antonio tells, I'm a tainted weather of the flock, meetest for death, the weakest kind of fruit drops earliest to the ground, and so let me. You cannot better be employed, Bassanio, than to live still and write man epitaph. So Antonio, though Bassanio gives him courage, before he gives him hope, but Antonio knows that nobody can help him. So what does he tell? That he is like a sick ship, tainted weather, diseased ram in the herd, only be fit to be taken out of the herd and slaughtered. Because in a herd, if one ship is sick, children, it is taken out and slaughtered so that the disease doesn't spread to others. So he compares himself to a tainted with a diseased ram that is fit to be taken out of the herd and slaughtered. And then he also compares himself to the weakest kind of fruit that drops earliest to the ground. So he tells that just like the worthless fruit that drops from the tree and rots quickly, he is also like that. So let me also die. He doesn't want to live. So I'm a waste. He thinks he's of no use to anybody now. So just like that worthless fruit, which is weakest kind of fruit that drops earliest to the ground and rots, he is also fit like that. And he tells, so let me. You cannot better be employed, Bassanio, than to live still. So the only suitable thing for Bassanio is to go on living and use his time to write an epitaph. What do you mean by an epithet, children? So it is a phrase or a form of words written in memory of a person who has died, especially, okay, who has died. So what is it is an inscription on the tombstone, children. Now I have shown the picture of an epitaph of the inscription on Shakespeare's grave here, if you can see here. So he doesn't mind dying, and he knows that Bassanio will be grieving if he dies. So how best the Bassanio can spend his time? He can go on living and write Antonio's epitaph, that is inscription on the tombstone. At that point, who enters? Enters Nerissa, disguised as a lawyer's clerk. Remember, we got to know of this plan in Act 3, Scene 5. Portia was to be disguised as a lawyer, and Nerissa accompanies her dressed like a clerk. The Duke sees her and immediately asks her, came you from Padua, from Bellario? Have you come from Padua and from Bellario? Nerissa, from both. Yes, I have come from Padua and also from Bellario. Yes, both are correct. And she also tells, Bellario greets your grace. That Bellario has sent warm greetings, regards to the Duke. And she presents a letter, Bassanio. At that point, he sees Shylock doing something. What is that? Why does thou whet thy knife so earnestly? Whet means sharpen. So Shylock, he thinks it is a foregone conclusion that he will get his pound of flesh. So what is he doing? He's sharpening his knife. So Bassanio asks him, why are you sharpening your knife so earnestly, so eagerly, and with so much enthusiasm, with so much attention? Why are you doing it? So how does Shylock reply? Very coolly he replies, to cut the forfeiture from that bankrupt there. So to cut the forfeiture means to the forfeit pound of flesh from that bankrupt there. Who is the bankrupt here? Yes, Antonio is the bankrupt here. Who is bankrupt means a person declared in law as unable to pay his debt. So Shylock tells that he is sharpening his knife to cut a pound of flesh from Antonio, from the bankrupt. Gratiano cannot control himself. Not on thy soul, but on thy soul, harsh Jew. Thou makest thy knife keen, but no metal can. No, not the hangman's axe bear half the keenness of thy sharp envy. Can no prayers pierce thee? So Gratiano becomes very wild. He cannot tolerate to see this scene, how Shylock is preparing himself to cut a pound of flesh from his dear friend Antonio. So he tells him, not children, please underline the word soul, S-O-L-E, and also S-O-U-L, children. Here the word soul has been punned. It's a very important dialogue. So what does Gratiano now tell Shylock? So Gratiano tells the Shylock that instead of, see, actually he's, if you can see the picture, Shylock is sharpening his knife on the leather sole of his shoes to sharpen. So instead, what does Gratiano tell him? Gratiano tells Shylock that he is sharpening his knife. Instead of sharpening his knife on the leather sole of his shoe, he should sharpen it on his soul, S-O-U-L, because soul, instead of sharpening it on the sole of his shoes, on the leather sole of his shoes, he should sharpen it on his soul, S-O-U-L, rude Jew, because thou makest thy knife keen. Instead of using the sole of his shoes, he should use his soul to sharpen the knife, because his soul is better. It is so hard, it will sharpen the knife quickly. Then he tells, but no metal can, no, not the hangman's axe, bear half the keenness of the sharp envy. During those days, children, the criminals were executed by hanging and the noble or political prisoners by beheading them with an axe. So imagine how sharp the axe should have been. But here, what is Gratiano trying to tell? Not even the axe of the hangman, not even the axe of the hangman can have half the sharpness of his envy. So even the hangman's axe is not as sharp as his malice. What do you mean by malice, children? A desire to harm someone. So his desire to harm Antonio is sharper than the hangman's axe. Can no prayers pierce thee? Now he knows. Okay, everyone is trying to change his mind, but now he appeals. Is there nothing that can? Is there no prayer that can penetrate his heart and change his mind? Children, now I'm in page number 117 in the textbook. So how does Shylock respond? No, none that thou hast wit enough to make. He knows that, okay, nobody has that intelligence, high intelligence, to change his mind. So none can, nobody, nothing can pierce his heart. No prayer can pierce his heart. None that thou hast wit enough. And he doesn't, and he knows that Gratiano doesn't have that high intelligence to put forth his words in such a way that can change Shylock's mind. Gratiano becomes very angry the way Shylock responds without an ounce of mercy in him. So what does he do? Oh, be thou damned, inextricable dog, and for thy life let justice be accused. So he wishes that he is damned. Who? Shylock be damned, condemned to hell, and calls him an inextricable dog or inexorable dog. That is one who cannot be insulted and cursed enough. Even if you curse also, nothing changes them. So he calls him an inexorable or inextricable dog. And for thy life, let justice be accused. And if Shylock is still alive, so who is to be blamed? Let justice be blamed for the fact that it allows you to live. And then he goes on to tell, thou almost makes me waver in my faith to hold opinion with Pythagoras that souls of animals infuse themselves into the trunks of men. Thy courage spirit governed a wolf who hanged for human slaughter. Even from the gallows did his fell soul flee, and whilst thou layest in the unhallowed dam, infused itself in thee. For thy desires are wolfish, bloody, starved, and ravenous. So now Gratiano is hurling abuses at him. He is cursing him, and he says that justice itself is to be blamed if Shylock continues to live. And he tells that he almost loses faith in his own religion. Thou almost makes me waver in my faith. Shylock makes him lose his belief, waver in his own religion, Christianity, and makes him to agree with Pythagoras, who came out with transmigration of souls, and agree with Pythagoras. Who was Pythagoras, children? You already know of Pythagoras theorem also, a Greek philosopher who believed that souls of men and animals appeared several times on the earth, assuming sometimes higher and sometimes lower forms of life. So now Gratiano tells him that Shylock's revenge upon Antonio makes him almost lose faith in his own religion, Christianity, which says that God made a man in his own image, and believe in the doctrine of the transmigration of souls taught by Pythagoras. So what did Pythagoras tell that? So when animals and human beings died, so their souls could enter each other. So according to this theory, the souls of some human beings pass after death into animals, and those of animals into some men. So now Gratiano is losing faith in his own religion, Christianity, and wants to agree with Pythagoras' a principle, a theory of the transmigration of souls, because he believes that whatever that Shylock, that he is governed by an wolf's soul. That the souls of animals entered into, and into the trunks of men. Thy courage spirit. He believes that Shylock is governed by a wolf. How can Shylock have be governed by, inhabited by the body of a wolf? Now let me tell you, okay, who hanged for human slaughter, even from the gallows did his fell soul flee, and whilst thou layest in the unhallowed dam, infused is itself in thee. So according to Gratiano, Shylock his spirit is inhabited by the body of an wolf, And how did that soul of the wolf come into the body of Shylock? Because a wolf was hanged for human. Wolf was charged for manslaughter, and it was sentenced to the gallows to be hanged to death. So that wolf, which was hanged for human slaughter, what did it do? It directly, what happened? What happened to the wolf soul? While it was hanged to death, did his fell soul flee? His cruel soul, the wolf's cruel soul, escaped, fled, sped away, and while thou layest in thy unhallowed dam, and while Shylock was in the unholy womb of his mother, while he was still in his mother's unholy body, he was still not yet born. So the wolf, when it was hanged to death, the wolf's cruel soul sped away and entered into the unholy womb, mother's womb, Shylock's mother's womb, when he was still not yet born, and infused itself in thee. So the wolf soul entered the body of Shylock when he was still in his mother's womb. Why does Gratiano tell all this? Because for thy desires are wolfish, because all his desires, Shylock's desires, are wolfish, wolf-like, bloody, starved, and ravenous, because he's very greedy, very hungry, very rapacious. So this makes Gratiano believe that Shylock is governed by an wolf's soul. So he believes that actually Shylock is a wolf in man's clothing, because all his desires are wolfish, bloody, starved, and ravenous. Now you might be wondering, what is this? How were animals hanged to death? Yes, during those days, children, in olden days, okay, it was not uncommon for animals to be formally executed like criminals. Trials of domestic animals were held, and actually the punishment of on conviction was death. Even animals who were found guilty of manslaughter were convicted. They were sentenced to death. Actually, the last trial and execution of a cow in France took place in 1740. So during those days, animals were held guilty for manslaughter. So now how do we relate it here? So now Gratiano is telling that Shylock is governed by an wolf soul. How did the wolf soul enter into Shylock? So the wolf, when the wolf was hanged to death, its soul sped away directly and entered into him when he was still in his mother's womb, because all his desires are wolfish, bloody, and starved. Then Shylock tells, till thou canst rail the sail from off my bond, thou but offendest thy lungs to speak so loud. Repair thy wit, good youth, or it will fall to cureless ruin. I stand here for law. So what does Shylock have to say here, children? So if you want, until you can use words, come to line 141. He makes a mockery of Gratiano's insults. He makes fun of him and tells, till thou canst rail the seal from off my bond, until you can use words of abuse, which will remove the seal from my agreement. He makes, so you feel that if you rail me, abuse me, you think that the seal from the bond will vanish. You're only offending your lungs. You're only troubling your lungs by speaking so loud. Repair thy weight. So it's not, your intelligence is not enough to change my mind, good youth. So repair thy wit. Come to your senses, or you will destroy yourself, or it will fall to cureless rain. It will be incurable. I stand for the law. So I want justice. So he makes he makes fun of Gratiano. How much ever Gratiano might run, how much ever he might speak against Shylock, nothing can make the seal vanish off from the bond. Children, I will stop here and continue from line 145 in the next class. Please go through the textbook carefully. What are the things you should notice? How Shylock defends him in spite of stiff opposition. All are against him. He is one single person. How bravely, courageously he defends himself. That is what you should notice here. And how nothing can change from his firm decision. We will see you. I will see you in the next class.